You know, I've always been curious to see if some of these mobile games, the ones we'd play more if not for appallingly predatory monetization, are actually, well, good under all that bloat. If we took something like that, buried under systems that respect less and less of your time with each iteration, and ran it through a little video game washing machine of sorts, mayhaps we'd witness a miracle. Well, Jesus, Mary, and Isaac, I guess it's a good year for roguelites because I think we just did. Ball Pit strides in tandem with Absolum and makes for a game I criticize not for any failing on its part, but because, well, I just want more. Ball Pit certainly takes its liberties, like the boss philosophy and characters of The Binding of Isaac, or the time survival and evolution system of Vampire Survivors. It even feels like those fake mobile ads made flesh. Funnily enough, I thought it was a fake mobile ad until I stumbled across its Steam page. Yet somehow, even with all of its clear inspirations, Kenny's son, the mad scientist, has cemented this experiment among the Hall of Heroes in the genre. This is more than just a competent copycat. Everything it borrows, it expands upon. The great city of Bolbalon is destroyed. As treasure hunters seeking to pilfer the ruins, you'll delve into the depths of its carcass, braving the caverns and battling foes in a brick breaker-like fashion. Level by level, you'll discover greater riches and the means to rebuild a new Bolbalon. Any other game would take a step back and let the city fade into flavor, but here you have full control over what you build and where you build it. This isn't town building in the traditional sense. You're not putting out fires and feeding hungry citizens. Rather, it functions as a unique take on an upgrade system or skill tree. What would normally be confined to a menu is a surprisingly addictive minigame here. You'll find yourself scouring old Bolbalon in search of 4 resources: wheat, wood, stone, and of course, gold. Pretty soon you'll be plotting your own farms, forests, and stone mines to streamline this process though. Each blueprint for building you'll discover will fall into 3 distinct categories. Economy, these are the aforementioned farms, forests, stone mines, and any other building that aids resource gathering. Warfare, these buildings help you brave the pit by way of simple stat upgrades to allowing a revive once per battle. And housing, a Terraria-like system to contextualize unlocking new characters. This is one of those things that'd be a million billion times worse in a mobile game made to rack up your credit card debt, but thankfully here it is very rarely a grind. There are a few things that work in real time, but those timers are short and pretty non-essential. I would like to personally commend whoever modeled these buildings because they are so cute and chock full of character. The low poly, cel shaded pixel art is wonderful. I am surprised they took the time to let us make a pretty little town if we are the type to sacrifice function for form, which I am, definitely. The kicker here is that instead of harvesting idly or clicking on these plots as they regrow, clicking the harvest button turns new Bolbalon into a pinball machine. Each character you unlock becomes a little farmer, miner, lumberjack, and construction worker to bounce around your little town harvesting and building as much as possible within the allotted time. This makes such a great little mini puzzle. They've done a fantastic job littering the experience with incentives to keep you constantly bouncing between the more traditional roguelite side of the game and the rebuilding of Bolbalon. Using the word traditional might not be entirely applicable here. As inspired as it is hardly traditional. The brick breaking angle is doing a ton of legwork for sure, but I made it clear earlier and I'll make it clear now. It improves upon so many systems that I see remain pretty static in its contemporaries. The characters initially seem pretty stock standard despite some neat art direction, but very soon you'll be unlocking characters that completely flip your approach to a run. Sometimes literally, one of them shoots from behind the enemies. If that was where it ended, I'd be chuffed, but not impressed. However, soon after that you'll score a blueprint that lets you bring 2 characters into a run, combining their abilities and turning 15 characters into 50. The perfect companion to these characters are the balls you'll unlock. There are 18 of them before any evolutions. Adding that in the mix makes 60. I'll say it again, if that was where it ended, I'd be chuffed but not impressed. However, there is a fusion system wherein you combine 2 of any given ball, evolved or not, and instead of creating entirely new ones with new stats and abilities, you kind of Frankenstein them into a new ball that puts both unique properties into one. It's a little hard to explain, so I'll give you an easy example. If I have the COVID ball evolution that spreads disease among enemies and I'd like to improve its effectiveness, I can fuse it with the basic ghost ball, which passes through enemies. And now instead of bouncing off of the first row, it'll roll straight through and put us all in lockdown again. Now, if I'm correct, and I failed grade school math, 60 plus every different pair you can make from them is a lot. Many balls. For reference, an hour on Omegle in the 2010s would not net you that many. I won't even go into all of the passives. They take a back seat here and there's still bloody 60 of them. Breaking bricks with all that you can cook up is immensely satisfying. The lengths you can go to create the most buck wild, insane builds has me wishing for an endless mode. 15 minutes is not enough. There is so much potential. Let me confuse the poor guy that has to fix my computer when I tell him it caught fire because there were too many balls on my screen. As of writing this, there are 8 levels in the game, each with distinct vibes, enemies, and bosses to boot. Unlike most Survivors likes, until you know this one inside and out, you're gonna have to pay a little attention. In its baby stages, you'll be fighting brick-like enemies that mindlessly drone towards you with the odd few shooting some kind of projectile. But as you progress, you'll encounter environmental hazards like quicksand, foes that shoot lasers at you, babushka doll enemies that split into smaller parts, and so on. From a broader gaming lens, the bosses you encounter are very simple. From a targeted roguelite lens, they're pretty great. For the most part, progression is perfect. In the later stages, they falter a tad, and a few additions feel basic and don't change the game as much as I would have liked, but that's somewhat of a nitpick. Most roguelites with a wealth of characters to choose from also run the risk of players picking one and sticking with it until the very end. While enjoying a game is the be-all and end-all, missing out is always a shame. That's much less of a problem here, as unlocking levels requires completion with more than one character. Simply put, each unique win nets you a gear, and the further you get, the more gears you'll need to upgrade the lift and go deeper. Look, admittedly this can feel a little grindy at times. Some characters are better than others, but it was never a long-lasting feeling, and it chiefly provides more opportunity to experiment with characters, fusions, evolutions, and the like. Now I'm not quite done. Amos Roddy, who has composed for Kingdom, Two Crowns, Citizen Sleeper, and even Minecraft, was hard at work for this one too, and it paid off. There is wonderful contextual music for each of the levels, and an attention to detail in sound design that I wasn't expecting in a smaller project like this. The way the enemies chant as they get ever closer in tune with the soundtrack makes for a pretty intense brick-breaking game. If I were to seriously critique this game, I'd say that even with the innumerable builds you can create, replayability here is lacking for the genre. It has an end, you can finish the game, and unlike other titles, it does run rather dry by that point. If not in its build crafting, in its enemy and level variety. Though on the former, any build is limited by the 15 minutes given to you every run. The addition of an endless mode and perhaps a few meatier content updates is an easy fix I hope they're chipping away at as I speak. Besides that, I truly have no complaints. Ball Pit is 2025's Balatro to me, and an effort I hope will not go unnoticed when it's time to hand out awards. Yes, I wholeheartedly recommend this game and will stay praying it has a long and fruitful future ahead of it. Thanks.